Hi everyone, Petrik here. In today's video, I'll be talking about a book, and it is one of my favorite books of all time now. It is potentially the best book that I have read this year, and it might just end up becoming the best book of the year for me. And I'm talking about The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. I am in awe. I am in awe. Seriously, it is truly incredible how good this book was. The Poet Empress, in my opinion, now is the best standalone fantasy novel, up there with The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. For me, if you love The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, you love Daughter of the Empire by Raymond E. Fiennes and Jenny Wirtz, and maybe you love the political intrigues in The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, you owe it to your soul to actually try reading The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. This is a debut novel, and it is honestly stunning how good it was. Now, honestly, I have owned this book. I think it was in December 2025, and until now I still haven't finished it to the end, because back then I thought it was a romantasy, and generally speaking, statistically, I have tried many romantasy. I have nothing against romantasy, but I have tried reading the popular romantasy. I couldn't finish many of them, but this one I tried reading the first few chapters and I knew I was in for something special, and because of that I waited until I'm in the right reading mood, and I was in the right reading mood in the past few days. So I end up reading this 140,000 words novel, and I'm just speechless by how good this was. I absolutely love this one from the front cover to the back cover. It is emotional, it is visceral, it hits deep into our soul, and the world, the Chinese-inspired world, definitely clicked with me as an Asian diaspora. And I love The Poet Empress. Now, if you want to know what this book is about, this is the premise of the book. House of the Azalea, where thorns meet bud. Brother betrays brother, blood forgets blood. The story in The Poet Empress follows Wei Yin. After the fifth death of a sibling with her family and village on the brink of starvation, Wei Yin is desperate, and she will do literally anything to save those she loves, even if this means offering herself as a concubine to the cruel and violent heir of the blood-godded Azalea house, where poetry magic is power, but women are forbidden to read. But to save herself and the nation, Wei Yin realized she must survive the dangers of the court, learn to read in secret, and compose the most powerful spell of all, a ballad of love and death. I remember reading The Sword of Kaigen back in 2019, in January 2019, and back then I immediately say that I don't think I will encounter a standalone epic fantasy novel as good as The Sword of Kaigen. Not anytime soon anyway, but apparently that day has changed. Now, this book, The Poet Empress, I'm crowning this together with The Sword of Kaigen as the best epic fantasy standalones that I have ever read. And I dare say that when it comes to ending of a standalone novel, The Poet Empress, despite its ambiguous nature, is actually more satisfying compared to The Sword of Kaigen, because The Sword of Kaigen has that spin-off effect. Now, this one does not. It is definitely a one-off standalone novel. The story is done here, and let me tell you, the story in The Poet Empress, it is dark, violent, it is cruel, merciless, and it is emotionally devastating. You might have seen, if you're online in the book community space, you might have seen people comparing this to The Sword of Kaigen, and one of the main reason is precisely because of that. Not only on the satisfaction factor, but also on the emotional devastation that we get from reading just one standalone novel, which is rare. Personally speaking, based on my years of reading, I think it is rare to find a standalone epic fantasy that hits really, really deep as The Poet Empress and also The Sword of Kaigen. But this debut novel definitely did that for me. Shen Tao did an absolutely amazing job in her debut novel. Now, Shen Tao has mentioned that this is actually her 9th novel, but it is the first novel that got published. Yeah, the previous 8 novels, she wrote those books by trying to cater to the market. Now, this one, she writes from the heart. She poured everything into The Poet Empress, and it shows in the writing, in the storytelling. It shows that this is a story that is born out of a passion of a story telling, and I loved everything about The Poet Empress. The characters, Wei Yin is great, but you will be mistaken if you think that this book is only about Wei Yin. Yes, almost the entire narrative in The Poet Empress is told solely from the first-person perspective of Wei Yin. That is not a mistake. But if you were to ask me what were some of my favorite chapters in The Poet Empress, I will be inclined to say the flashback chapters. I'm talking about the brothers Maro and Terran. Now, there's a saying, I think some of you might have heard about this one: all children are born kind. It is only because after life and also forced responsibility and also insidious expectations and pretty much life in general, we know how harsh life and adulthood can be toward us. They have stained the soul of this innocence with malice and also, well, unbridled malevolence. That happens. We have seen this happens so many times in life, maybe to the people that we know. And this is the kind of thing that happens to Maro and Terra despite their innocence and joy. When this paired to the present time frame, Wei Yin's time frame, it hits absolutely powerful for me. It's so emotional, and I cannot help but relate to a lot of the story and narrative in the Poet Empress. One of my favorite things about the Poet Empress is the way it encompasses so many resonating themes so brilliantly and then delivers them as impactfully as possible to the reader. The themes of greatness, love, family, brotherhood, a legacy, trust, love towards literature, and mainly power, the lure of it, the pursuit of it, the intoxication of it. Power corrupts, and it corrupts completely. To accomplish what Wei Yin wanted to do, she might have to decide whether she needs to become a monster as scary and terrifying as the monster that she wants to kill to save her nation and the people that she loves. And I think that is one of the great questions. If she actually did that, well, I will not tell you whether she actually did that or not. Well, is she doing a good thing or not? You will have to find out, read and find out for yourself. And the political intrigue in this book is just absolutely brutal. This is why I mentioned Daughter of the Empire by Raymond E. Weiss and Jenny Wirtz in the beginning of this review, because this book reminded me of that and also the political intrigues in the Dandelion Dynasty. Now, if you have read the Dandelion Dynasty, you know that that series by Ken Liu is, in my opinion, one of the masterpieces in epic fantasy. And this book, kind of like in the smaller portion of it, was definitely redolent of the Dandelion Dynasty in places, even the flashback chapters. And I'm saying that with the highest praise possible. I think this is just an absolutely stunning debut, and to think this is a debut novel, I cannot wait to actually read more books by Shen Tao. Now, from the reading first chapters, I knew immediately that this book would be special for me. Reading is subjective, and we cannot separate our life experience, our preference, with the enjoyment of a book. And this is a book that clicked with me completely from the beginning to the end. The world is Chinese inspired, but I need to remember that this is not a historical fiction or historical fantasy. It is definitely an inspired world. The characters' names, for instance, other than Wei Yin and a few other characters, are not all Chinese inspired. Maro, for example. Maro is a Japanese name, if I'm not mistaken. And then there is also Terran. Terran is a Western name. Wei Yin is a Chinese name, of course. But more importantly, the book does not seek to be accurate to Chinese history. It seeks to be inspired by Imperial China. And I think it worked absolutely well to the overall narrative and the unforgiving world of Tensha in the Poet Empress. There's so many moral dilemma being treaded upon in the Poet Empress, and it is beautiful and also chaotic and also deadly at the same time. All of them at the same time. There is so much to love in the Poet Empress. And this review will not be complete without me talking about the magic in the Poet Empress, literomancy. Now, in this book, if a character, let's say a character or an individual receive a blessing, and then there's the literomancy appearing on their cheek, here, like this cover art from the Our Create edition of the Poet Empress, you see that the word Tao is imprinted on Terran's cheek. This means, just like the cover art depicted, Terran has the ability to summon practically infinite knives or swords, as long as he has the energy to do so. And I think that's super cool. If you played Final Fantasy 15 video game, it is basically like Noctis in that video game, except that this one is so much more brutal compared to the Final Fantasy 15. The way Tao utilized this magic into her world and the narrative is brilliant, in my opinion. It is superb, and you have to read and find out for yourself. Now, the magic is not complicated at all. The prose is both accessible and at the same time raw and hard-hitting in the right places. So many people who are, let's say you haven't read epic fantasy, you can definitely start from reading the Poet Empress. It won't be a mistake. I think you will actually do yourself a favor, assuming that you are okay with dark and also story that does not shy away from torturing and also pretty much hurting the characters, because that is what Tao did in the Poet Empress. Again, there's no sugarcoating that. It is a dark story, it is a dark narrative, and it is one that I absolutely love. And everything, the tremendous development, every single character development, all the build-up, everything came to a titanic clash in the climax sequence of the Poet Empress. Now, this climax sequence, it will easily remind it of some of the best climax sequences in epic fantasy novel or series. For me, I did not expect how epic and also how insane the final battle would get. The final chapters, all of them were just so climatic. It was intense, pulse-pounding, and it's so breathtaking. It's so good to actually find an epic fantasy standalone that is as riveting as the Poet Empress. It is, as I said in the beginning of this video, it is rare to find an epic fantasy standalone as thrilling and emotionally devastating as the Poet Empress. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. And if you're wondering about this one, this is actually the Illuminated edition of the Poet Empress. And this dragon, apparently a dragon actually exists in the Poet Empress, and you can actually see that from the first few chapters in the Poet Empress. And yeah, that's pretty much my review for the Poet Empress. I think this is potentially the best book of the year. It might just become the best book of the year for me. We'll see whether in the remaining 7 months, whether I will be able to find a book that topped this one. But in one debut novel, Shen Tao has managed to hit several accolades from me. It is one of the best debut that I have ever read. It is the best standalone fantasy novel, up there with the Sword of Kaigen and maybe Children of Hurin for me. And then also it is one of the best books of all time for me. Just mind-blowing in every possible way. As a standalone, I think it is a masterpiece. It is also impeccable. Love this very much. And once again, I need to reiterate that if you love The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, or maybe Blood Over Whitehaven by the same author, and also the political intrigues in the Dandelion Dynasty and Daughter of the Empire, you must read this one. This is a must-read for readers of the series that I just mentioned. And well, it is said in the book that poetry is truth and emotion. Well, this review is my truth and emotion, my honest emotion about the Poet Empress. Bravo to Shen Tao for this just absolutely incredible debut novel. I'm speechless. Truly, I'm speechless. And yeah, it has been a while since I found myself this speechless by an epic fantasy standalone novel. And yeah, that's pretty much my review on The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. As I said, this is a one-off standalone novel. And if you haven't read this one yet, make sure to pick it up and read it as soon as possible. I don't think I actually think that I'm quite late in diving into this one. This is actually quite hype right now in the bookish space. But it is for many good reasons that many people love the Poet Empress. And I think many years from now, history will judge and sing the Poet Empress as one of the best standalone fantasy classics. We'll see. We'll see. And then, I don't know, maybe a decade from now, someone will check this review and, well, they will agree with my assessment. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. That's my thoughts and also my opinion regarding The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. If you have read this book, let me know what you think about it. Do you love this one? And if you haven't, let me know when do you plan to dive into The Poet Empress. Let me know whether this book interests you or not. And I will make sure to post my interview with the author Shen Tao as soon as I can. I need to talk to her about my thoughts and also pretty much everything about this book as spoiler-free as possible, of course. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. As always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.